Sell, sell, sell. Get rid of him. Get him off your teams. All within reason, of course. Michael Bolton. Michael Bolton? I haven't sold you, have I?
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and do you know what a female cat is called? Ketty. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Blue Sky, joshloyd.bsky.social, on Twitter at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Make sure you are using Game Time, actually. NBA released the dates for NBA Summer League. I will be there. So come and see me if you want. It's starting July the 10th. I don't know exactly what dates. It'll be the first few days that I'm there. But if you do want to come to the NBA Summer League, you can see me there, and you can get the tickets from Game Time. Also, check out LockedOnDaily.com. Yes, LockedOnDaily.com. That is where you find the best newsletter for your favorite NBA team. So go and do that. Thumb it up. You know, we thumb this video up, but you thumb up your email. I don't know. I don't think that's how emails work. I don't think they need thumbs. Maybe you do to type. Do you type with your thumbs? That's I don't know. Do I even... It's a very weird start to the morning. It's a very weird day here. We are here to do sell high fantasy trades on what is a very mediocre podcaster's birthday. We all celebrate that worldwide. I know you celebrate it yourself. And we're going to do sell highs. A reminder, because we all need one from time to time, every week. A sell high does not mean trade away the player. It does not mean that. It means you can. But it is also absolutely possible to just write it out. But if you see these numbers that I put up and you want to argue against them and argue that they can continue, you are giving fuel to the fire that a sell high exists. And that is cool as well. Because you know what? We don't get all of them right. We get some of them right, and they might happen in a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. That is how it all goes. But fantasy basketball is about value. It's about fun as well. And if you don't want to get rid of a player because he's been cooking, unbelievably valid to do that. These 5 names that I talk about are also not the only sell high players that are available. You might have other options. And if you do, comment down below. All right? If you've got any other sell highs that you think could be mentioned. And if you don't want to move on from these players, absolutely do not. That is totally, totally cool. A sell high is a tough thing to pull off. Because like I've say all the time, you're going up to someone and go, hey, have you seen this guy on my team? He's unbelievable, but I don't want him. Like, there's nuance around how you approach that. And most of the time, and in a points league, that's basically impossible. Right? That's basically impossible. Unless you throw in something like, yeah, I'm actually just really racist against Eastern Europeans, so I don't want him on my team. Like, is that one of them? You could do that. I hate the Celtics. Valid. I don't believe in heat culture. I do believe in Joe Hendry. I don't believe in heat culture, so I don't want this guy. Maybe that's how you do it. But just in terms of performance, it's an illogical argument. So it's harder to sort of approach. But we try it. We do it. It works. It doesn't work. That's okay. You don't always have to do it. Part of this is if these guys are on your team, you look at what they do and you go, I'm expecting this to fall back a little bit. And that's totally okay as well. Because we have variances. We have ups and downs in all of our performances. I'm a massive up and down performance legend. Let's look at how we did 2 weeks ago in the Sell High show. We had some successes. We had a couple that didn't quite hit, a couple that sort of bang on. Let's talk about it. First one we had was Rusty Westbrook. It has been a very obvious drop from Westbrook, and the things that we highlighted from him in those games did happen. 41st he was when we did the show 2 weeks ago. He was 121st since then. Okay, easy. I don't think you could have sold high at 41. Again, when we talk about, hey, this guy's the 41st ranked player, and I will do this once more again. When I give a ranking number, what is it? It is a per game, category, head-to-head, weighted, -1 ranking. To put that into easy terms, it's just Josh's rankings. That's how because the majority of people play category leagues, the majority of people play head-to-head leagues. These are the rankings that make the most sense to me. And I believe they make the most sense to anybody trying to evaluate players. So when I talk about rankings, that is what I mean. So Westbrook went from 41st to 121st. Jarrett Allen went from 25th to 84th. And that's one of those ones where I had arguments with people. Well, arguments, discussions. Man, why can't Allen continue this? Well, he didn't. But what he'll do is he'll jump back up. He'll move back up to 30th or 40th, and he'll move back to 90th. And if you can continue to sell high and buy low, which is very hard to do, but if you can, it's about consistent value accumulation. Jalen Green was an obvious one. Now, he hasn't fallen as far as he has in the past. He was 19th, 79th now. That's fair. There's reasonable expectations that Jalen could be between 60 and 90, let's say, rest of season. So that's fine. The next two have not paid off. One of them was Amen Thompson. I hate being low on Amen. I love Amen. You might have, but I don't think you could have found anyone higher than Amen than me. Where I had him equal number 2 in Dynasty rookies. I had him number 3 in the draft. And he'd be very clearly number 2 in a redraft now. He was 22nd. I said, yeah, I think some of these things aren't going to hold. They not only held, he got better. He's 14th. Now, admittedly, to give myself an ability to sleep at night, is that I said, yeah, this is going to be very good for a while, but when Jabari comes back, which won't be in the next 2 weeks, you're going to see some drop-off because he just won't play 41 minutes. He might play 35, but that's still like a 15% decrease. And that's important. And that takes you from 22nd to 40th, or whatever it is, or 50th. But it hasn't happened yet. So wrong. Naz Reid, I had him 88th, and I thought some of those numbers couldn't hold, but they did. He's 74th. Now, there's been a few other interesting things happen there. He's had minutes rise in this time frame as well. Part of what I was talking about with him was his weird shooting numbers, but he also bringing in some big defensive stats at the moment. I still think that is a little bit of a sell high from Nas, but it obviously hasn't worked yet. And that's, again, that is okay. I'm okay to live with that. And I understand some of the things that I held with those players, I think will manifest. It'll just take a little bit of time to get there. The way that I do the sell highs, I'm not sure if you're aware, I have a whole big spreadsheet where I put all these numbers in, a whole bunch of formulas, a whole bunch of different things that we put in there, and then it spits me out about 30 different buy lows and sell highs every week that I do this. You wouldn't know this because I've never told you this. So that's how I do it, right? And I look through the list and I look at all the names that are chucked up as buy lows and sell highs. But what I love is when the numbers, purely numbers, spit out names, and then I can also attach a narrative to it because that's the double whammy. It's where there's the numbers are flying, and then there's the narrative on top, which in some cases makes it a more compelling sell high, but in other cases might make it tougher because people often don't care about numbers. They care about what's your overall rank. On the player radar, he's ranked 20th. People will look at that number, or they'll believe a narrative. So at times it can be easier because you've got two lots of evidence to convince yourself that it's a sell high, but it can be harder because the person on the other side of the trade is sitting there going, well, I know the narrative, so I'm not going to do it. And the first one of those players is the big fella himself. It's Zion Williamson, the biggest bird. When he's not out here plundering gigantic buttocks, he's out here putting up big numbers, which he is doing at the moment. Zion, over the last 2 weeks, is the 15th ranked player per game. Now, it must be said that Zion has missed a few of those games. But it also must be said, if I'm going to be fair to Zion, and I try to be fair to Zion as best as I can, part of the reason that we can have some skepticism, or not some skepticism, some hope in these numbers is that he's been on a minutes limit during this time. So we could do more. He's averaging 48 fantasy points. The numbers you see down the bottom of the screen, if you're watching on YouTube, are his season averages to date. He's averaging 23, 8, and 5. But over the last 2 weeks, he's up to 10 rebounds a game. He's also at 2 blocks a game. 2. Now, Zion was you go look at Zion's college numbers. I think he averaged 4.5 steals and blocks combined. It's something ridiculous. Some of the best defensive numbers you'll ever see. But it hasn't really translated. It might be translated now. He's at 1.1 steal, 1.3 blocks for the season, up to 2 blocks recently. He's shooting 62 from the field. He's got a 41 usage. So hold on. That's probably not sticking. I don't know what's going to happen with Brandon Ingram. No idea. Can't explain it. No idea if he's coming back. But what I'm not going to be confident with, and Zion has had some huge field goal percentage runs in the past, but 41 usage, 62 shooting is an insane number. It's a ridiculous number. Pair it with 2 blocks. This is peak Zion. When we talk about Zion, hey, maybe he can be a top 20 category guy. This is why. Big defensive numbers, insane field goals, insane usage. But of course, this bloke's hamstring might ping at any point. It's like breaking a wishbone off a chicken. Like, it could go anywhere. Another time, they could shut him down. He could go awry. He could be face first in a BBL for 20 minutes and then suffocate. I don't know. Something could happen. It is hard to pull off just because it's Zion and the history's there. But what we're getting now is, the thing is, it's not even peak Zion because he's not even playing like 35 minutes. Imagine he played 35 minutes. He could average 30 and 10. 2 blocks, 2 steals, 62%. That's the number 3 player in fantasy. I made that number up, but it's got to be close to it. He wouldn't maintain that, but he could actually do it. And at least we're seeing the outlines of it now. But the risks, the usage drop, the efficiency drop, the blocks drop, the injury risk, the Pelicans risk, the Ingram return risk. It's too much there. What would I take back for Zion? I'd love a top 40 guy. I'd probably actually take a top 50 guy back at this point just because of the risk. I think he's better than... Like, I've got him ranked 72nd rest of season, so that's obviously not superb. I'll probably have to make some adjustments because he has figured out some of this defensive stuff a little bit more. But I'd be very happy to get off of Zion at this point. Today's episode is brought to you by the Game Time app. NFL playoffs. We're almost there. It's almost over. And there's one game to go. It's an unforgettable experience, the NFL playoffs, that can bring fans together. And Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for events even easier. It filters out the fluff to show you incredible deals on great seats. You don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Just pick the game that you're looking for. There's one of those coming up. They've got the super deals as well over on Game Time, which offers the best value for the event that you're choosing to go to. The app's features like the seat views before your buy and the all-in pricing with no surprise fees at checkout, the experience becomes smooth and reliable. Plus on-time ticket delivery and lowest price guarantee, it can give you that peace of mind that you need. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create the account and redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. So let's look at the next player as a sell high. And this guy has a bunch of stands, and I don't really know why people are so passionate about Deni Avdija. He's been a mid player on terrible teams. He is playing very well at the moment, right? He is. And he probably does exceed my preseason projections. My initial preseason projection on Deni was, I don't know if I trust the shooting, but also there's a lot of good players on this team who aren't that good, but where do the minutes go? And yet, that's what happened. He was benched for half the season. But now, he is back starting, and they've benched Shaden Sharp, and Scoot Henderson comes off the bench. And there's going to be random rests. I don't believe Deni's going to be immune to rest, by the way. I think that if they're going to be preserving assets down the stretch, he will be one of the guys that sits, I believe. But also at the moment, he is cooking. He is putting up very strong numbers, and this is not because I hate Deni Avdija. It's not because I'm anti-Deni Avdija. It's not because I'm denying you guys of something that you can get off on for me saying that I was wrong. I am so sorry to Deni. It's not that. It's just there are certain things that are happening with Deni at the moment that just probably aren't going to hold. And we'll start with the obvious one. He's shooting 71% on his twos. Not going to happen. Impossible. Will not continue. Guarantee it. Lock it in. Write it in. Will not happen. He is the 54th ranked player in category leagues over the last 2 weeks. He's averaging almost 40 fantasy points. His season total numbers, they're fine. They're not good, but they're fine. 14, 6, and 3 with a steal. Shooting 47 and 77. Below average points, threes, above average rebounds, below average assists, average steals, below average blocks, below average field goals, below average free throws. Right? That's a very mid player. But at the moment, what we're getting from Deni is impressive. He has been elevated into the starting role. They're giving him more minutes at the moment, and he is responding with increased value, increased volume, increased shooting, and that is helping. He's also getting 7.5 free throw attempts per game. Also seems like something that probably won't hold. Probably won't. He's at 4.3 for the season. He was at 3.6 last season. 7.4 feels like it's a little bit of a stretch too far. I don't think he holds at that number. In this time, though, to be fair to Deni, he's hitting 27% of his threes. But also, it is worth noting, he's not a good three-point shooter. He's had one strong season. Actually, last season, 37%, right? That's his best shooting season ever. So him being not a good three-point guy is actually pretty makes sense. The steals number through the roof, obviously. He's averaging actually over the last 5 games 19, 8, and 5 with 2 steals. They're ridiculously good numbers. But will he continue with 5 assists? That's 50% higher than season average. Will he continue with 2 steals? That's 100% of a season average. Will he continue with 8 rebounds? That is 25% of season average. Above season average. Will he shoot 71 on 2s? Well, that one I can tell you right now he won't. 56 to 57 is a reasonable estimation, I think, for Deni Avdija and his 2-point percentage. But yeah, I think the minutes staying higher are probably going to happen. The worry they then have, much like with Zion, narrative part of it. And Deni doesn't seem to get the narrative part of it. The idea seems to be around Avdija is that Jeremy Grant will be traded or sat down and Ayton won't play and Simons will be gone and they'll just turn things over to Deni. But like I said, Deni Avdija is not super young. He's not unproven on this team. He is, how old? He's 24. So, he's a year and a half younger than Anthony Simons. So why can't he just be one of the guys that also gets fake injured down the stretch? That's what I'd be worried about. If I could get a top 75 player back for Deni, do it without any question. If I could actually get a top 80, maybe 90 player back, I would do it. Because I don't really trust huge amounts of what's going on in Portland. I don't really trust that level of production they're getting. I don't trust that these guys are going to stay healthy. And I don't trust that Avdija is going to be one of the guys who's there playing down the stretch when they could be going with Chris Murray or Justin Minaya or someone along those lines. So, yeah, I am skeptical of Avdija being able to maintain this. It's not because I hate him. It's just that I'm looking at the numbers. And I don't think he's a 7.5 free throw guy or a 71% 2-point shooter or a 5 assists and 2 steals guy. Don't think that's true. And I'm not certain that he plays down the stretch. He might, but I'm very far from convinced. He's not 21-year-old Scoot Henderson. He's not 21-year-old Donovan Clingan. He's not 28-year-old Chris Murray. Exaggeration, but it's funny. Maybe to me. He's not those guys. He's someone they invested 2 first-round picks in, and I think we might be at the stage where we've seen enough. We'll see you later. Maybe not, but I think it's possible that that's a move they make. This next guy also unbelievably cooking. Jaden McDaniels has been the butt of my joke for 3 years. Of the bloke who just can never step up, can never elevate his game, and is completely overrated in fantasy leagues. Well, at the moment, he's not overrated. He's unbelievably good. 36 fantasy points per game over the last 2 weeks. You'll note, if you are watching on the video, the absolutely gigantic list of outliers that just popped up from what he's doing versus what he's been doing during the season versus projections. He's the 57th ranked player over the last 2 weeks. Now, I have adjusted my season-long projections on Jaden, and I actually do think we are at that stage, and it's always risky because literally of his history. It is risky for me to say you should just be rostering him, no doubt. But my projections say that you should. His form says that you should. One of the things that's really happening for him at the moment is, obviously, it's shooting. Right? He's at 62 true shooting. 64 on 2s, 54 from the field. They are really strong numbers. His true shooting for the season, for example, is well under league average at 55. He was at 57 last season. Right, so he's up at 62 now over the last 7 games. 61 over the last month is encouraging. It is impressive. It is improved. His 2-points are up. His 3-pointers are up. His free throws are up. He's at 86% over the last month. But there's still things here that I'm not fully ready to buy in because his usage is still low, 14.4% usage, not very high. But it is that difference between 55 true shooting and 62 true shooting that's turned him into a 14-point per game scorer versus the 10-point per game scorer he is for the season. And the thing that is not quite hidden, and we know that he's known for being an elite defender, but he is unbelievably good at the moment at that level for fantasy. Now, last season, he played 29 minutes a game, 0.9 steals, 0.6 blocks. Some may say putrid. Cool. The year before, in 31 minutes, 0.9 steals and 1 block. Also, not very good. The last 2 weeks, 2 steals and 1.4 blocks. Insane. Even for this season, his 1.5 steals is so far above what he did last season that I look at it with a bit of skepticism. But he's done it all year. I don't think that those steals and blocks hold. I don't think that the scoring holds. I don't think the efficiency holds. I'm not sure he's going to roll at 0.9 turnovers either if that's what you're counting on. He might, but I'm not sure that he does. Even though he's at 1 for the season, but historically he's been a 1.3 guy. Even his 2.1 assists are higher than he's never been a 2 assists per game player. Highest he ever got was 1.9. So they're all just little things that he's putting it all together at the moment. So if I could get a consistent top 100 player for Jaden, I would. This is also probably one of those ones where, hey, like, he is flying. I would consider grabbing him. I would consider holding him. But if someone came in with a real hot offer, I don't think it sticks at this level. So it is again, it's a tough one to negotiate. Part of the buy low, sell high shows is just about, hey, who's flying at the moment? Who's on an unbelievable run? Does it make sense? Will it continue? What won't continue? How will it look? And that's part of what we use with Jaden. If that gets involved in a trade and someone chucks him in a 2-for-1 or whatever, understand that sometimes these numbers can get under the radar a little bit, and he's doing some stuff that doesn't make sense with his career, but also doesn't make sense with his season-long numbers. And I think that's where we're at with Jaden McDaniels. So before you look at this and talk about Jaden and react to the name and whatever you want, look at the details. Listen to the words. Listen to the individual things that I don't think will hold. And we can always have arguments about if you think this will hold. Do you think you can be a 2 steals, 1.4 blocks guy? That's okay. That's fine. I don't, but you might. But don't base any of your decisions in fantasy on strict ranking numbers. Even on fantasy points, it can be harder to do that. I mean, not harder. It can be a trap because, well, this guy's averaging 50. And yeah, okay, but he's shooting 100% to get there. So it's probably not going to stick. So understanding the basis of it, the structure of how a player gets to a certain position is, I think, really informative to you in being able to bring the correct process to fantasy evaluation. We've got 2 more of the old sell highs to talk about. So we'll get into those. The next one, we're going to Detroit. The passport legend, Jalen Duren. He is, he's been, and this isn't a word, but, we're all about trying to be the next Willie Shakes. We're always trying to get get Webster's on the case and bring new words in. Calendrical, one of those. But what's what I was going to say? You know what? I started preambling that too much. I forgot the word. But anyway, he's playing well. What an idiot I am. Jalen Duren. He has been very tough to deal with. He's been very annoying. He has been terrible to begin the season, and now we're getting good Jalen Duren. And it's been good for a while now. That is absolutely fair. People picked him around the 60s in drafts. My concern with him was that I don't think he's a 33-minute-a-night player because they'll still play Isaiah Stewart, and that part of it is true. But what we have seen now is a big, big resurgence. And over the last 2 weeks, Duren's 26th. He's averaging 37 fantasy points. I think he's like an 80 guy, 70 guy rest of season. But he is doing well more than that. Way more. How? What's he doing? Well, let's just immediately, your eyes should always go to percentages. 75 true shooting over the last 6 games. 75. For the season, 70. Last season, 65. The season before that, 66. So his efficiency is up. Absolutely, it is up. He's a 64% free throw guy this season. He's at 70. What's he up for the last 2 weeks? 73. There you go. That's very high. He's at 75% from the field. He's at 69.8 for the season. He was at 62 last season. 74.5 is a very hard number to maintain. Jalen Duren didn't block any shots really last season. 0.8, embarrassing in 29 minutes. This season, he's up to 1.2 in 25 minutes. He is 100% improved in that area. But also, it's gone even a step further. 1.7 blocks over the last 6 games. That might be going a little bit too far. So he's at 14 points. He's getting a steal and 1.7 blocks, which is that's combined 2.9 for the year 1.8. All right? Big difference. 75 from 2, which could easily be 68 from 2. It could be 66 from 2. And that's a 10 percentage point drop. And then that means 14 points per game becomes 11.5 points per game. And that means that 74 from the field becomes 68 from the field. And then you drop the steals and the blocks down, and instead of being 26th, you're 80th. It is so easy for a player that is basing their numbers off low volume stats, which Duren is at the moment, and has massive percentage fluctuation possibilities to just vary so much. To oscillate back and forward between the 20th best player, the 130th best player, the 30th best player, the 90th best player. It's very easy to do that. Selling at the high, buying at the low. That's how you can maintain value possibly. But what he is doing now, it's everything happening. High field goals, high free throws, high steals, high blocks. Pretty unlikely all 4 of those stay at that high level. Trading him, again, these things can be tough. They can be hard to do. What would I take back? If I got equivalent draft value, which is around the 55 to 70 zone in a draft, if someone gave me that back in a trade, I'd be pretty happy with it. I'd be pretty happy to get that back. But he's improved. He's improved a lot over the second half of this season, or the middle third of this season. And I think that improvement can be real. But there is stuff here for Jalen Duren that just isn't real. And the last one is one. Now, if you have checked my Instagram or my TikTok or my Blue Sky or my Twitter, you saw me tweet this out earlier today. The rolling 2-week -1 graph of Christian Braun, who started the season absolutely red hot. And then for 7, 8, 9 weeks in a row was bad. Right? Just was not useful enough. And then Russell Westbrook came into the starting lineup, and Westbrook continually got more minutes than Braun, and Aaron Gordon returned, and Brown's numbers all disappeared, and I was like, I don't really think we need to be holding on to him. And then Christian Braun said, all right, bet, because, that's what the no-cap skibbity kids say, and he proved me wrong. He has been great. Over the last 2 weeks, this is worth remembering, though. We can talk about how great he's been. Over the last 2 weeks, he's up to 92. That's fine. That's a 12-team league player. But I don't know that he's a top 150 guy rest of season. I don't know that he's even a 25 fantasy point guy rest of season. So what's actually happening here? What are the outliers? Well, he's averaging 17 points a game over the last 2 weeks. 17 points per game. That's obviously really good. And I don't know that he loses a starting spot. I don't know that they bring Aaron Gordon back in. They probably don't. But for those of you who want to be ready to get really behind Christian Braun and believe that he is this awesome guy, there are certain things here which it's just very, very, very unlikely to stick at this level. It is very unlikely. And all of these numbers that are the outliers, these are the things that have contributed him to getting to 92. Now, if they got him to 30th, and I said they're going to regress, then yeah, they'd regress and he'd still be really good value. He'd still be worth it. But he's just inside the top 100. He's not even a 30-point fantasy point per game player with a million things looking as outliers. And some of them, again, you might say, well, Josh, even if you're listening on audio, they're not really outliers. He could be this good. Let me tell you what they are. All right, he's at 72% on his twos. That's a ridiculous number. You know what he shot last season? Under 50. This season, he's been much improved. He's at 65. It still seems an impossibly high number. But 72 is not real. It's not going to stick. He's also, for a guy that his shooting numbers over his career have been fine. 35 from 3, 38 from 3, 37 from 3. He's at 44 over the last 2 weeks. Big difference. And I always like to provide frames of reference for things. You'll say 44 to 37, Josh Lloyd still a good shooter. 7 percentage points. But if he went from 37 to 30, you'd be like, oh my God, he's terrible. All right? It's still the same difference. It's still the same drop. It's still the same raw percentage point drop. So going from 44 back to 37, yeah, still solid. Still average above average. But it's such a hit to that production. And you tie it in with the fact that he's going 72% on twos. Oh, and by the way, 91% from the line seems unrealistic. You know what he shot last season from the line? 69. You know what he shot the year before? 63. So he has been an unbelievable improver from the line. 63 to 69 giggity, up to 82 this season. And now he's hitting 91. 91 is reserved for the very best of the best. I'm not really sure that Christian Braun is the best of the best. Sorry to say. All of that translates to 74 true shooting, translates to 66% from the field. Mind you, he's only hitting 1 3 a game, which I'm not even sure he's able to do rest of season. He's at 0.6 blocks per game. Okay, I'm not really sure he does that. He might, but I'm not sure he does. But realistically, what we are getting from him at the moment, usage is up a little bit, up to 18%, which I'm not sure that holds. He's at under 30 minutes a game. And he's averaging 17-4 with 1.6 assists and 0.6 steals. And those steals will go up. But there is a lot here from Braun that just, it's not real. It can't hold. Nobody can do this. His teammate, Nikola Jokic, cannot do this. Nikola Jokic cannot do this. So Christian Braun cannot do this. And because he is a low-volume player, is that you miss one shot, the impact that has overall is amplified versus others. Conversely, you make a shot on that low volume and everything goes way straight up, right? Because of the valuation and the way that, sample, all that sort of stuff. You think you know how it works. I said that Braun was a drop about 6 weeks ago. I believe that was the right decision, and he was bad for that time. And the last 2 weeks, he has flown way back up, and it looks terrible now, right? It looks bad. I still don't think this holds. I don't think it holds. So again, take that under consideration. I don't think Braun's this good. I wasn't high on him in the middle of the season. I wasn't high on him in the beginning of the season. But I find it hard to argue that those numbers would hold. I find that impossible to argue, actually. You can argue that he'll be good. You can argue that I think he still can be top 100. I mean, that's the nebulous sort of figures and discussions. That's okay. I don't think you can argue that these numbers hold. I don't think you can argue that this shooting holds. Maybe. I don't think you can, though. And that's 5 sell highs. So we went through the sell highs, and today's sell highs were, just to recap, Zion Williamson, Deni Avdija, Jaden McDaniels, Jalen Duren, and Christian Braun. So go ahead and give it a thumb. Leave a comment. Tell me what you think of the sell highs. Which ones do you argue against? Who do you think can hold up? Why? And let me know. Also, be positives. Be positives in your own lives. Be positives in others' lives. You don't have to be a bubbly bubblegum cheerleader, but you don't have to be someone who just constantly brings yourself down. There'll be something good that you did. The challenge that I put out to you is just find it. Acknowledge it. Give it a self thumb. Go, okay, we're good with that. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.